Welcome to the Idiot Farmers Volume 17. Between injuries and working a lot with COVID, we haven't really done much around the farm, but today we'd like to show you some home cooking based on some old family recipes. Hope you enjoy.
So today I'm going to be making traditional Appalachian chicken and dumplings. I got to talking with a friend about this the other day and was talking to my dad about it. My dad's sister, my Aunt Liz, made the best chicken and dumplings ever. And so as we were talking about it, I just felt like, man, I really want to have some of that. So what we've done already is I've taken one of our Cornish cross hens that we had butchered back in June, and I cooked it in the Instant Pot overnight with a mirepoix, so onions, celery, and carrots, and salt and pepper and some poultry seasoning. So I cooked that overnight and it was nice and cool this morning. So then after I got it out of the Instant Pot this morning, I've taken and basically, just pulled the chicken off the bones and took the skin off. And now I've thrown the bones and the skin back into the Instant Pot with the rest of that mirepoix to make chicken stock for later. And then it really cooked down a lot, so I had a very super thick, almost like a bouillon kind of consistency of the chicken stock at the end. So I added another can of pre-made chicken stock that we've made here and some water to that to make about 8 cups of chicken broth. And to that, we're going to add some butter and flour and just salt and pepper actually to taste. Now, we don't usually have milk in this house because none of us drink milk, but we've had some heavy cream because Phil made a quiche last week. So this recipe for the dumplings calls for milk, but instead I just made kind of a half and half. I used half heavy cream and half water to get my milk made. So what I'm going to make right now is the actual dumpling recipe, which I just realized is on my phone, and therefore I can't videotape myself because my recipe is on my phone. So I'm going to pause this video for a moment and I'm going to write the recipe down really quick and then I'll come back. The recipe, by the way, I'll post a picture of it on one of the stills on the video. It was actually written by my Aunt Liz. She sadly passed away several years ago from colon cancer, and we miss her every single day. But this is her recipe, so cheers to you, Liz. Thanks for that one. And I'll be back. So I have written down my aunt's recipe. I'm going to be doubling it. And there are 2 ways to make chicken and dumplings. There's kind of a biscuit drop way, and then there's one where you roll out flat strips and put that into the gravy. My aunt always made the flat strips. That's what I like. And so that's the way we're going to make it today. So the recipe calls for 2 eggs, but we're going to double it, so we're going to do 4. And of course these are just actually picked up last night. We've got several different colors of laying hens out there right now, so it's kind of neat, like a little rainbow of eggs. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll bring it in a little closer. So we've got 4 different types of eggs. So some of these eggs actually are so big, they're double yolkers, and they don't even fit in our little containers, so we have to just set them next to the stove until we eat them. It's such a goofball. Here, you want to put the eggs away for me?
Huh?
Want to put the eggs away for me?
Yeah, sure.
And just don't touch anything because it's very precariously balanced right there. I couldn't find our tripod, so right now I have my camera sitting on a Tupperware container full of rice with a mason jar behind it and then a glass bottle behind it to kind of hold it up in place. Okay, so there's our 4 eggs.
Hello?
Here's our cup of milk. We need 2 teaspoons of soda. One and 2. And then My aunt says to add enough flour until it is stiff enough to roll out and divide into a dough. So that's about as specific as my instructions get here. Now, I also have another recipe here that actually calls for baking powder, which is why I got confused, and 1 egg, a 1/3 cup of milk, but that's more of a biscuit recipe. So we're just gonna start pouring here. And as I pour, I'll tell you a little bit about, so my grandmother, as it was very common in the day, got married very young here in Appalachia. Well, what we would consider young now. She was 14 when she got married. She had my Aunt Liz, and then she had my father. And then tragically, her husband was killed in one of the big coal mining accidents that happened here in West Virginia. At the time, it was the biggest coal mining tragedy that had ever occurred in the state. And I tell this story because my grandma was pretty much just a Wonder Woman. I mean, she was remarkable. She was then in the 40s and 50s, a single mother with 2 children. And I remember her telling me that at that time she had a 2-door vehicle. And I can't remember, I think she said it was an Oldsmobile, but it was a coupe. You know, it wasn't a family-friendly car. So she remembers that people in the town would kind of get on her case and yell at her and tell her that it wasn't seemly for a single young mother to own a car that only had 2 doors. It's just, you know, but she put up with that stuff, and she worked as a nurse or as an aide in a nursing home and raised those 2 kids during that time when it was really difficult to do that alone. And she had suitors during that time, but she was really in love with her first husband, and the suitors generally, again being kind of a sign of the times, would tell her that she just needed to forget him. She needed to move on. They didn't want her to have pictures of him in her house or anything like that, and she just wasn't down with that. So then she met the man who I've come to know as my grandpap, and they fell in love and lived a very long and happy life together, and had another child, my Aunt Judy, who you know, is just an amazing part of my life as well. We have a great family. So anyways, that's the story of my grandma. And whenever I make chicken and dumplings, even though it was my Aunt Liz's recipe per se, it still just makes me think of my grandma and family dinners at her house where we're all sitting around basically broiling in her house because she always kept it so warm. But it was good times, very good times. So the dough here is getting to be kind of where it needs to be. It's a little sticky still, so I'm gonna keep adding a little bit more flour. I think here shortly I'll be able to get a rolling pin out and roll this out. So that's my story I wanted to tell about my mom, my grandma. And of course this is my dad's side of the family. Lots of fond memories of both sides, but the chicken and dumplings is definitely from them. So now I'm just going to keep doing this, and then I'm going to roll this dough out and cut it into strips and then into squares, and that's going to be what we put in the chicken gravy that we're making to make our chicken and dumplings. So we'll just leave it at that for now. This is during COVID times, and Lee was supposed to make the apple dumplings today, but in his defense, he is a teenage boy, and it's really quite difficult on these kids, I think, to try and do at-home assignments. So he kind of goofed around it yesterday a little bit and spent a lot of time on the computer hanging out with his friends, which is great because I don't get a lot of time to do that. But anyways, he got behind in his assignments, so he is currently upstairs writing an essay, and I'm downstairs eating great and showing you how to make apple dumplings. So, this recipe calls for 2 cups of flour, and I just, all-purpose flour is all you need. 1 2 1 teaspoon of salt, and mix those in a mixing bowl. Now, this recipe calls for shortening, and I'll be honest with you, I despise cooking with shortening. Shortening just grosses me out, but truth be told, for pies, it's probably the best thing out there. I would much, much, much rather cook with lard than shortening. So it calls for 2/3 cup of the shortening. So 1/3 is 5 1/3 tablespoons. So 2/3 would be 10 2/3. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's literally like shaved off about 1/2 centimeter of shortening. This stuff is so gross. Anyone who doesn't think this is gross is weird. That's just my opinion. It's just manufactured goo. But it does make for a light and flaky pie crust. Problem is, you use lard or butter in a pie crust and it gets really dense and doesn't have that flaky texture that everybody really likes. Alright, so we're supposed to cut that in until the mixture resembles, what does it say? Coarse meal. I don't have a pastry knife, so I'm just doing this with my fingers, which is kind of, honestly, viscerally satisfying. It feels good to get your hands in dough, mess around like that. So now it does look like meal. Add water, tossing with a fork to dampen evenly. So that is 1/4 cup water, and it says not to add that 1/4 cup all at once. This is why I'm not so great at baking. I'm much better at cooking, because I tend to eyeball things a lot. And you're not really supposed to eyeball baking. Yeah, okay, I'm adding it all at once, because I'm also not super patient. Now it says you may need to add an extra sprinkle of water. I think I do. I mean, that's pretty, there's not a lot of water in there. So, extra sprinkle. And then you're supposed to form this dough into a ball. I swear to God, guys, this looks like magic sand. Like, if this is going to form a ball, it's going to surprise me. Look at that. It is. It's like, this must be how you make magic sand. How cool. There is no possible way that that is wet enough. I'm going to add more water. Man, I'm really not good at baking. Just in case there was ever a question. Okay, this looks a little bit better though. This is all kind of sticking together. Kind of. Now, divide the dough in half in the smaller recipe in 8 parts in the larger. Roll each part into a circle between 2 sheets of wax paper, making it large enough to fit your pie pan. But we're making dumplings, not pies. So I gotta figure out how we're gonna make this work. Right now, I need to core the apples. And unfortunately, I don't have an apple corer, so we're just gonna have to make this work. I've got some organic Granny Smith apples. We're supposed to use 6 of them. Granny Smith work really well because they're nice and tart. Go ahead and rinse them off. Looking outside because the dogs are out there laying in the sunshine. So I suppose I can use this knife. Okay, anybody who's ever watched this show before, just close your eyes. I'm gonna try to do this. I feel like I'm in an 80s slasher flick. Only this will probably have more blood once I cut myself a few times. Well, that didn't work. And it says, gotta be honest with you, it says to core and pare the apple. I don't know what paring the apple means. Does that mean peeling it? I always had apple dumplings with peels on them. So I guess that's something else. If anybody's watching this video, you can tell me what the heck paring an apple means. I mean, I've seen a paring knife, but I thought that was for like cutting things into pieces. But I don't think you're supposed to cut apples and apple dumplings into pieces. I gotta say though, I'm pretty impressed with my ingenuity here. Others who cook for a living might not find this impressive, but I am, after all, a doctor, not a baker. So right now I have the some syrup on the stove, and what did I do with my rolling pin? And I'm going to try now to roll out this dough. And I think we can feasibly make that into a few squares. I'm just going to cut this into 4 pieces. How about that? And then the other one I'll make into 2. Although this one probably isn't going to be big enough. Open that just a little bit more. A little apple. Then you're just supposed to kind of fold these sides up like so. And dampen edges of dough and bring opposite corners together. I forgot to dampen it. And I also forgot to add the sugar and the seasoning. So sprinkle some sugar on it. And then a little nutmeg. Ooh, my ginger's almost gone. A little ginger. Yeah, I left the clove in there, and then a little cinnamon. Because Phil doesn't like clove really at all. And then some water in here. And I will dampen the edges so that when I bring them together, they will make a nice little house for this apple. That one's just really not good, so I'm going to try another one. nutmeg, and ginger. So then when you get done doing this, what you're supposed to do, well, that's not what you're supposed to do. Oh man, this is not going well, ladies and gentlemen. Not going well at all. Ugh. This is not near big enough for what I'm trying to do. It's falling apart, it's sticking everywhere. And this is why Lee was supposed to be the one to do this, because he's a lot better at this stuff than I am. But I understand. He's got to get his schoolwork done. That always comes first. Alright, let's see if that works a little bit better. Alright, I'm just doing some patchwork dumplinging here, guys. Boom. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be, but here. I have a tiny little apple wrapped dumpling ball. So then, whoa, hello. And that's what happens when you don't watch the pot that's boiling with the sugar. Alright, so that's good. Now, you're supposed to put these into a pan and bake them in the oven. So that's going to be my next step. So, I'm just going to go fight with this on my own accord. You guys have a good afternoon. Me and this apple are going to have some words. Okay, gang, here is what the dumplings look like before they go in the oven. That is the syrup over top of them. They're all tucked in their little dumpling huts. And yeah, hopefully they'll taste better than they look. So we'll get a picture of them when they come out. All right, faithful followers. So you saw me make all of these wonderful dumplings earlier today, and I stacked them up on parchment paper and put them in the microwave to save for later in the day. And this is my complete lack of knowledge of baking and baking stuff. So apparently when I did that, the stuff came to temperature because it was in the microwave. It wasn't being microwaved, but it was over top of the oven and stove, which has been on all day today. So this is the absolute mess that I'm left with. I'm going to try to make do and salvage as many of these dumplings as I can. Luckily, I made way more dumpling than I needed, hopefully. And then this is the apple dumplings. Now those turned out really well, so I'm excited about that. We're just going to turn this oven back on, heat them back up here in a sec when we sit down for dinner, and that's where we're at. So I was kind of stressing out about the fact that one was super thick and one was less thick and more thin, and since we made them both basically from the exact same stuff, I just decided, hey, rather than stress out about the discrepancies, let's just combine them into one pot. Which is what we did. And now it looks beautiful. Beautiful chicken and dumplings. Look at that gravy. Oh, yeah. So I just tried to video me pouring all the chicken into it, and I forgot to hit start. So yeah, here's me with the chicken in it. It's beautiful. It looks great. We've tasted it. It's pretty tasty. I'll video everyone when they take their first bite, and we'll let you know for sure if it's good. So this is our first meal on our new table. We're very excited about it. So here's our chicken and dumplings, our green beans, and our salad. So Lee's gonna try the chicken and dumplings.
Man, these green beans are really good. Man, I can't stop eating these green beans.
So Lee's gonna try the chicken and dumplings. You probably need a fork. Or not.
Hot.
Super hot.
Not as good as the green. And they're pretty good.
What are they?
Gonna try the chicken and dumplings. Chicken from our farm.
Yep.
There you go. Farm chicken. Yep. Spot on. Delicious.
Are the dumplings doughy, or do they?
No, they're fine.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Very good.
Awesome.
great.
Very good.
Oh, Valerie gives it the seal of approval.
That's very good. 10 thumbs up.
Good. Pop-Pop's eating it now. Have you already tried a bite? He loves it when I put him on video eating. Awesome.
Very good.
Good, good, good. So despite all of the mishaps, it still turned out pretty tasty. Awesome.
Thanks again for watching the Idiot Farmers. We hope you all enjoyed our presentation today. And if you did, please click like and subscribe down below. Also, if you have any comments, we'd love to see them in the comment section. We hope everyone has a safe holiday season. Everyone take care and be well.